I think the market is maturing for people early in their careers that are interested in transitioning into sustainability. A generalist definitely is the way to start, but I would advise them to think about where they eventually want to go.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Richard Baker, founder of Collective Responsibility, here with another episode of the Sustainable Ambassador podcast. This episode, I'm joined by Dmitry Andreev, who is a supply chain sustainability consultant, and Diana Chen, associate principal of sustainable business at Schneider Electric. Today, we'll be talking about how their careers in sustainability started, where they got that start, the opportunities they're seeing, and how they're adapting to developing their own careers. At the end, we'll share some tips for students and for the young professionals who are looking to develop their own career, for their own careers in the area of sustainability. So thank you very much and welcome to the show, guys. It's great to have you here to talk about the work that you're both doing.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Richard.
All right. So as a starting point, would you please tell the audience a little bit about the work that you're doing and why you got into the sustainability space to begin with?
So thanks, Rich, for having me on. So I'm associate principal at Schneider Electric's sustainability business. Our specialty is decarbonization. So anything from, measuring scope 1, 2, 3, setting science-based targets, climate risk assessment, that sort of thing. So I actually was in the creative industry first. I did a lot of brand strategy into China market. So I met my former boss, Pat, at an event I used to run, and she was a speaker. And at the time, I think because I was traveling to China so much and you could just, see it in the air quality, I think I just wanted to do something more meaningful with my career.
Initially, I got into the field by accident because I was working in the financial department of the mining company, and they wanted somebody to help them with environmental management system. It happened so that I was good in Excel, and my former boss, just said that we need somebody, even without knowledge in the field, but somebody who will be able to help us to build this data management system. My second touch, and I think that's where I started working actually with Lian Fan company, looking into their social compliance and environmental data first, and then transitioning slowly into supporting the programs development and implementation. And now I'm actually in consulting part. Focus is still on the supply chain consulting, still social and environmental aspects.
A lot of people do start off in consulting and then work their way into in-house. But since you were in-house and you went to consulting, what's the transition been like, and how's it different from being in-house before?
For me, the main difference, and actually the thing that attracted me to the consulting in the first place, is how targeted it is, how much the frameworks are used to be able to implement solutions, scale solution, and drive the impact. Because in corporate, there's much more time spent on trying to define what to do, how to do it on a very generic high level. Then a lot of time spent, and in fact a lot of time also wasted on getting the buy-in from the right stakeholders. And that's why I right now, to be honest, prefer consulting.
Diana, I want to ask which one you prefer, because you're only a few months in. What do you think about his comments? What are you trying to bring from the consulting world into this position? Are you happier being more specific around, say, energy and carbon, and less so around everything else?
Yeah, so I think for me also it was based on the size of the company too. So previously, prior to Schneider, the biggest company I had ever worked for was probably 25 to 30 people. And Schneider is 130,000 people globally. So I think just the mammoth size of a corporation, it obviously has good and bad points. Good is there's a ton of resources. So, there's a bunch of different teams. We have an environmental commodities team that I could, jump on a call with and learn about how we purchase carbon offsets, where, as before, I would just have to do a lot of research online myself, and, I can actually talk to the people that are doing it. But in that same way as well, I kind of have to figure out how to navigate a lot of things myself. I think, like you said, Rich, I haven't had enough time at Schneider to really let that sink in, but so far so good. And actually, because our sustainability business is essentially a consultancy, so and it's quite new in APAC, so we are sort of run almost like a startup.
What do you feel about the space overall right now for sustainability professionals? I mean, you're on the younger side right now. You're not at the CSO level yet, but as young professionals, is this an exciting place to be?
So my parents are, they're Asian, and they're traditional Chinese. So they're quite Asian in the terms of career opportunity when I was first starting out. So having a career in the creative industry, they're like, what is that? Are you going to make money? And then I transitioned to sustainability. They're like, what is that? Are you going to make money? But then all of a sudden my mom's like, oh, that was a good career choice because now we're hearing about sustainability all the time on the stock market. And I was like, okay, that means, I've done something right. So I think it was like at that point where I was validated. But yeah, I mean, I think like I said, when I entered, 6 years ago or whatever, it was not really spoken about. But then I think over the past 5 and 6 years, it's just a huge upward trend that doesn't seem to be slowing down.
It's definitely growing and exploding fast, just not as fast as I would want it to be, especially here in Asia. But yeah, it's definitely an industry to be right now. It was definitely an industry to be 5 years ago, and it's definitely going to be an industry to be in its next 10 years.
The opportunities are kind of, as you both mentioned, they're everywhere. So where is progress being made, and where do you think that progress is left to be made, so that as you're looking in your career, like how do you then look at your career going forward so that you can have the greatest impact that you can possibly have?
Well, from my perspective and from my experience mainly working with the supply chains, I still do see that majority of the companies who keep pushing their sustainability programs, who start establishing their sustainability programs, they're still coming mostly from the Europe and the US. There are a number of players in Asia who are trying to, let's say, make the difference, but trying to establish their leadership in the field of sustainability and show this as a competitive advantage, right? But I would say these are still selective few. But I said that I was idealistic before, and I still want to keep my idealism and say that within the next 10 years, the picture will improve significantly.
I would agree and kind of disagree with that. But I think actually there's a lot of companies that are really trying to transition, not just, creating a sustainability strategy, but integrating it with their business strategy. I think the root of that is still very regulation driven. So, there's mandatory reporting requirements in Hong Kong by the Hong Kong Exchange. And then in Singapore, they're requiring listed companies to report on climate related disclosures. So I think obviously that is very much the driving force initially, but actually when companies do realize, do kind of do the work and have something, a sustainability strategy, they realize that it is actually, good for the bottom line too.
It's getting clear for many companies, I guess, what sustainability is for them and then what they should do. Does that mean that as a young professional that you should be a generalist in sustainability anymore, or should you really be wrapping your careers around or your focus around, either the problem that you want to solve, right? Like you want to maintain that idealism and just hammer away at that, or, very practically, like you're going to be in energy management, or you're going to be very technically focused. Like where's the opportunities that you see, and does being a sustainability generalist really have much value anymore?
For the corporate world, at least from my experience, getting this high-level understanding of different topics and how they intertwined, carbon, water, basically energy efficiency, biodiversity, everything, how all these topics are intertwined and how they affect the operations of the company, either at their own operations or supply chain. This is exactly what brings value, especially when the companies are in the beginning of their sustainability path. In consulting, of course, it's different. You have to be a specialist to be able to provide insights and implementation of different projects. But personally, I think that generalist is the best way for those who are getting into the industry from the beginning.
I think the market is maturing. So one of the reasons I switched is I wanted to deep dive into a specific area. And I would suggest, like, for people early in their careers that are interested in transitioning into sustainability, a generalist definitely is the way to start. But I would advise them to think about where they eventually want to go deeper.
Is it just finding the thing that you want to work on? Is it finding the skill set you're good at? Is it finding the company that you want to work with? Or is it just because you don't know what you're doing yet, so you might as well just say, I'm in sustainability and I'm passionate, and that's what's valuable to people?
Well, I would say there are 2 points. One is actually what you mentioned. Yeah, I'm sustainability, and that's good, right? But at the same time, sustainability field is still evolving, and it's still in the beginning of the path, right? It's evolving far too fast from my perspective, for anybody to be able to become a specialist in the beginning of the career. So that's why I think getting to know different aspects of the field, and only maybe later then starting specializing in the certain area is the right way.
Okay, the term sustainability generalist is reflective of almost like the ecosystem of sustainability itself, because every issue is interconnected, right? Like the E issues are connected with the S issues, connected with the G issues and product issues, whatever. I think, as a generalist, it's good to like take a step back and realize the connection between all of these and have somewhat of a working knowledge between, like the major ones that we're trying to tackle over time, like climate change, social injustice, all this stuff. Having that ability to think strategically around all these issues that interconnect is quite important.
Do you view sustainability as being completely embedded in terms of the functions within specific companies? So if so, what's the role of a sustainability generalist within the company like that?
I would say that it's still going to be a separate sustainability function plus integrated specialist in different functions. For example, as you mentioned, supply chain and marketing as examples, even sales, of course. The role of the sustainability generalist is in this case, in this setting, is really going to be to align all the projects within the company and integrate them in the holistic strategy. So I wouldn't say it's going to be really like each department having a sustainability specialist or just a single standing sustainability department. It's really going to be a hybrid model.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's really hard to find a person who has everything in terms of, deep sustainability knowledge, as well as, maybe an MBA in business that focuses on bottom line too. And to have someone to drive that company, it's like, one in a million. It's really hard to find someone that's perfect. So I think, like Dmitry said, like we would have to have someone, driving like a sustainability chief officer, but also having, sustainability embedded people into each department.
There's a lot of sustainability degrees now. There's the Cambridge certificates are really popular. There's ESG certificate from CFA I see people getting. Are there degrees that you would kind of recommend? Are there certificates? And then how do you look at developing yourself from a skill set going forward? Are you guys going to be picking up specific skills around, say, carbon management, or are you going to try and do more, generalistic kind of things?
That's a question I was asking myself for the last several years. And I was asking around people, like, what certificates do you recommend? These or that programs for sustainability professionals are good. And what I've heard, at least majority of responses I've heard, is that what's still out there, at least those Cambridge certification, a couple of others, they're mainly targeting those professionals who are either entering the field to get a better understanding of what they're getting in, or if they're still in the beginning of their career, right? Or maybe those who are already experienced professional in another field, for example, supply chain professionals or marketing professionals who want to know how they can integrate or work with the sustainability function, so they need to get this experience. I was trying to find those certification schemes, let's say, or trainings that are really more focused for example, project management, ISO certification and validation approach, and of course, something related to greenhouse gas verification.
So the first continuing education course I did was with Harvard University at Executive Education for Sustainability Leadership. And that was 3 to 4 years ago, I think. And it was like a 1-week residency program. That was more about transformational change within your organization towards sustainability. Not an introductory program, but not technical and deep dive. And then currently, I'm actually still finishing the master's in sustainability leadership at Cambridge. A lot of people join that master's program because they want to switch jobs, and they feel like having this degree will give them, not really just an overview, but a deep dive into certain issues. And because it's a research-based master's as well, so you can determine, what exactly you want to research. Like if you want it, let's say you're in retail and you want to switch to finance, totally possible because of the immaturity of the space of sustainability. These programs are really good catalysts for if you're looking for a job change. But as well as, it depends on how deep dive you want to go, or if you just want to, have some sort of 101 courses.
Why did you choose the Cambridge Masters? Why didn't you choose, say, an MBA with a specialist in sustainability? Or what was attractive to you, and why differentiate from, say, a standard business degree or, say, like a technical degree around sustainability?
So I think at the time, I just really wanted it to be very sustainability focused, and whereas Masters, is more sort of business focused. And I didn't really want to minor in sustainability, if that makes sense. And I thought either way, the network of, your cohort is going to be really good. Actually, at the time, I was considering doing the certificate, which was the 1-year program, the supply chain certificate. And they're like, if you're even thinking about potentially turning that into the master's, you should just go for the master's in the beginning. So that's what I did.
Dima, I got a tough question. Like, if you had the option of the Cambridge Masters when you were getting your MBA at Siebes, would you Would you have still gone to Siebes and gotten your MBA? And if not, what's the value that you see still for the MBA versus, say, a sustainability focused master's degree or sustainability degree?
No, I definitely wouldn't choose a sustainability focused degree rather than MBA, because sustainability is business driven. So knowing them, even the foundations of the business, right? Not even talking about advanced understanding of the business processes, right? It's essential to make sustainability happen, to make to put sustainability on the agenda of the top leadership of the companies.
So changing a little bit here, what's the ecosystem like for young professionals in sustainability? Are you finding a lot of resources and a lot of kind of, community coming together now to support each other? Or do you still feel like it's still kind of a hodgepodge of activity going on and you're kind of on your own in terms of sustainability and as a professional?
So I've been here since 2016, and in the beginning, first 3 years, I would say first 3 years, it was really a growing community of local sustainability professional, grassroots, and basically those who were interested in the topic, either from professional perspective or from personal interest, right? But what has been happening recently with the COVID lockdowns, right, during the last 2 years, it really take a high toll on local community. And if before there were events, at least one event related to the field at least every week. Nowadays, there are occasional webinars maybe, and this kind of online meetings, right? So in this regard, I would say it was devastating what has happened in Shanghai, specifically with the sustainability community. I do hope it will start to recover after, let's say, after this year, but it will definitely take time to rebuild what has been.
Yeah, I agree. I think the community here really took a hit, but now that things are kind of opening up in Hong Kong, it's like conference revenge, because all the conferences are happening now, and there's in person as much as it can be still. But I would still say, like, even though there is quite a strong sustainability community in Hong Kong, that it is still pretty isolated from other people, because like I have my, sustainability friends that I might get together and chat about work or whatever. And then there's non-sustainability friends, right, that we don't talk about that space very much at all. So it'd be great to find that integrated at some point.
Why did you come to this region? Why, and both of you mentioned like this is a great place to be for it. What's so great about being here? What are you learning? What are you experiencing? And, do you see yourself staying here for a long time, or is this something that you take back to, the US or to Europe, to other parts of the world, and really see as a longer term continue to follow the path?
So when I was coming here, I was really coming for two reasons, basically. First is it was my real interest in the country and the culture, right? And second, it was really about the opportunities of that were standing still ahead for the country, right? Specifically for the field of sustainability. That was my thinking around 2014, 2016. After several years of experience here working with different companies, and specifically on supply chain, I think that's exactly the reason to come here to either China or overall Asia region, to really see what the manufacturing is like on the ground, right? Because brands, companies are based far away, and their sustainability departments often have little real understanding of the things on the ground, and they do need these insights to be able to make an impact, to be able to build a feasible sustainability strategy, and to be able to basically move sustainability forward.
I'm really with you, like knowing what's happening on the ground and then being able to help those at the top, like really understand the insights and the experience and then make real adjustments. I think that's hugely valuable. But I also question, how do you, after being here for so long, transition that out into, say, another region, another country, another your next level up? Is that something that you think about? Is that something that you plan for? Is that something you think is an advantage?
I definitely think this kind of knowledge is an advantage, and it should be leveraged. It must be leveraged, actually, and it provides good leverage to move to basically somewhere further and abroad, right? But I also would not discount the opportunities lying here with local companies who are still trying to basically start their sustainability departments or sustainability efforts, right? This also presents great opportunity, because you're here on the ground, you know what their supply chains are and what they need to be doing. And they will be listening to you even better, because they also have certain understanding of what's happening on the ground, right? Whereas those who are far away, it's basically different headquarters, let's say, right?
As Dmitry said, a lot of the operations and in terms of supply chain operations are based in Asia. And if not supply chain, a lot of like business strategy in terms of expanding marketing, market share or whatever is based in Asia as well. So I think having the market knowledge is really good. I'm actually a little bit fearful for if there is a day that I do want to leave Asia. I feel even though I'm from the US, I might have like a bit of culture shock going back and because I've never worked in the US, to be continued. But I think having Asian knowledge is really helpful.
So if you look at the next 3 to 5 years, what are the skills, certifications? What are you trying to do to build your next steps in your career?
I'm actually very interested in nature-based solutions and learning something around that, because I think that's based on the regulation side. Even though right now it's maybe not quite in view, but I think that space will grow. I think that's an area that I would really like to develop.
I think right now, I have pretty much clear idea for that one for this and for the next year. So in terms of continuous education, and first is going to be really further focus on the carbon, anything about the greenhouse gas emission verification, implementation, scenario assessment, and also echo to Dana's point about the TNFD. Basically, biodiversity is getting a lot of attention nowadays. Companies are starting to look into this, and I definitely would like also to understand this topic.
All right. As a last question, what are 3 tips, tricks, hacks, things that people should know as young professionals, as students, as they're building their career? Like, what advice would you give your 6, 8, 10 year ago self?
Soak in all of what you hear from, more experienced professionals and just do a lot of self-learning. And bring that into your own kind of professional conversations. I would say even for me, like to this day, I think in the sustainability field to stay really humble and open because everyone is learning. Like Dmitry said, everyone is an ESG specialist nowadays. And in that sense, there's a huge learning culture, and even sustainability, the ecosystem is always changing. So there's always things to learn. So I don't think you can ever be a master of sustainability, even though I'm getting a master's in sustainability. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can just like master the whole thing. So just always be open to learning.
Okay, 3 things, that's a lot. I have 2 on my mind for sure. Let me think about the third one as I speak. Okay, the first thing is yes, I would also echo what Dana was saying about learning. Right now, there's so much information about sustainability online, and every week there's like at least 3 reports covering different topics of sustainability for different industries, and they're so easily accessible. That's definitely a go-to for anybody who is either starting a career in sustainability or want to jump into the sustainability. So that's for sure. Second part is I still would suggest to focus on the business, understanding how business operates in the first place, and then adding knowledge of sustainability topics on top of this. So that's the second thing. Third thing, be bold. I definitely suggest for people, even without any sustainability experience, but drive, let's say with some drive or aspirations to make impact or transform companies, to go for it. Just go bold for it, even if you don't have enough experience, if you don't have enough knowledge. If you think that it's out of your league, just go for it, try it.
Honestly, I knew Dima's journey, and he ground it out for months looking for his first job. And it was like, everyone's like, what are you doing? You could get any
tough.
good job. He's like, no, I am stubborn, man. And I think you do need a bit of that. I think you need that also to keep you going through this career, because there's so many different things that are happening. And, there's a lot of great momentum here. And I think the nice thing is that we have so many people coming into the space, both as students, transitioning as mid-career kind of professionals, and that's opening up a lot of opportunities for everyone. So really appreciate the time that you've both spent here sharing your insights, your experience, the work that you've been doing, the career path you're following, and what you're trying to get done. So again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Richard, for having us.
Thanks, Rich. It's been a pleasure.